scoot in there alone. It pinballs to the crease.
Let's get it.
Oh my God! Here we go.
You're listening to the Street Bullies podcast with your hosts, Derek.
How you gonna get it, Bobby?
John. Matt Casey.
Unnecessary, but totally necessary.
And Cody.
What's not to love?
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Street Bullies, the only podcast you're going to see an intro video where it feels like it's been way too long since the Flyers have scored a goal. My name is Derek.
And I'm John. What's going on, everybody?
We're doing our best to try to keep everything positive here tonight, folks, but all hell's going to break loose.
Screw that.
30 seconds.
Let's go negative.
Right,
Buckle up,
right
ladies and gents.
Speaking of, there's Hoagie. What's happening, man?
Hey, what's going on, boys?
And we've got Matt Casey joining us as well.
I'm in a dark place. Let's shed some light on it.
You ever notice at the beginning of the video where he goes, "Let's get it"? It kind of sounds like Hoagie if he was stoned off his ass.
Dude, I love that line too.
Right? It sounds like you said it.
You know what's tough though?
it.
Is watching our intro video. I'm like, those were good times.
Anytime glory days. Talking about glory days.
The glory days.
Sorry, Mark.
The glory days.
Sorry, buddy.
No,
right off the bat.
it's been a terrible week in hockey. There's no two ways about it. 4 games since the last episode, and we've lost all 4. Went 0-3-1. We got 1 point. 1 goddamn point out of 4 games. What else am I supposed to say here, guys? I'm at a loss for words.
It's what you get for trying to multitask. I told you couldn't do it. He's trying to type the banner in and talk at the same time, and he can't pull it off.
Well, someone's got to do it. So I don't know what I don't know why you're complaining here.
I'm trying to get too fancy with our podcast. I'll say this, man, on the games, and I don't want to backtrack. It's not like we lost 4 close games. We lost 1 close game to Florida, which okay, they're a good team unless they play. Who was it? The Kraken? Did the Kraken just beat them?
Yeah, the Kraken.
It's all right, I guess it's us and the Kraken who are able to take a shot at Florida, but the rest of them weren't even close. I mean, we're giving up 4-0, 2-1, 6-3, 5-2. So much for our defensive responsibility that we're hanging our hats on.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we make Dougie Hamilton look like freaking Connor McDavid.
Yeah, he looks
What the hell? I mean, I get it. He's an offensive defenseman and he's a pretty damn good one. But holy crap. Look at this guy.
8 shots through 1.5 periods, through half the game.
Right.
8 shots for a defenseman.
That's insane.
What?
it's half
the
their
hell?
shots, right? At that point, or something
It's
stupid.
insanity.
Probably something crazy like that. I mean, they had 30-something shots. They had 35 shots on net for that entire game, where Philly posted 25. That's another issue that we'll get into here, but Christ. I mean, 1 of 8 points. They're sitting in 7th in the Metro through 20 games. It's a mess. There's no two ways about it. Where does this mess begin, though? And I think that's what we're going to try to pinpoint here tonight. I think we're all kind of in agreement here as to where it begins. From there, I don't know. I mean, what are we supposed to do about it? So, John, speak for the rest of us here, it sounds like, and let us know what's going on here.
I will gladly speak for the rest of us at all
I should
times.
preface this by saying John's opinions do not reflect those of the rest of us, but we'll see.
Well, listen, you have to. Is there something meowing in the background?
Yeah, it's my cat.
Hoagie, Jesus
Sorry.
Christ. Will you throw that thing in the microwave already?
Trying, man.
You're trying? All right. Well, let us know how it goes. Anyway.
PETA's going to be all over our ass now.
Anyway,
This is a joke
when
cartoon.
I think of this team, right, I look back to last year, And Chuck Fletcher goes into the offseason and makes a ton of moves. And I know that people will argue lateral moves, but I don't agree with that. I do think that there were improvements. Injuries have caused some issues. But when you watch this team play, it looks like the same exact team last year. And to me, that's because of the coaching. I have been pro AV since he was hired. I try to give this guy the benefit of the doubt, but his system, this dump and chase BS, just is not working with this team. And I think it was Jason Martinez that said, to a coach, their system is their religion. Mm-hmm. To me, a good coach learns how to adapt to the talent that they have, and he's not doing it. It just clearly isn't working. And I know people be like, fire Terry, and we're beyond that. This is such a bigger thing now. I think that the entire way this team is coached to play just is not matching the team. And I don't want to take up everything, and I have a million things to say, and we'll go back and forth. But to me, this is a coaching issue.
I can't disagree there. What are your thoughts on that, Matt Casey?
I absolutely agree. And I think to play off of that point, it's the way they're coming out. And I went into the game yesterday, the New Jersey game, and I was like, okay, like this could be the game we turn it around. We're coming off an off day. Like I know we had practice. I mean, it looked like we had gone, we played back-to-backs all week long. Like, I mean, there was no emotion. There was no energy whatsoever. I think we're hoping that first line is going to bail us out. They're not really doing it either. And like, that's a lot to put on them. And so I think it absolutely falls in on the coaching. The injuries are a factor. There's no doubt about it. I don't think anyone on that team, though, has been like, oh, injuries are a factor. Claude Giroux came out and said that's excuses. Everyone's dealing with injuries. I will argue that not every team is dealing with 5 regulars that are out. And I think that's a legitimate concern and probably why we won't see a change with AV. But overall, it's like, man, you got to be able to push the buttons of your team and get people psyched up. And you look at what happened in the Florida game, and the reason why I would argue that was such a good and competitive game is that it got physical and nasty quickly. It got them into it. It got people like Ristolainen, and it got McEwen, who continues to impress from the fourth line perch. But that's not a good sign when that's what we're talking about as the positive. So I think like the team just needs to show more energy and more enthusiasm and more just passion. And that does fall on coaching, and that falls on, being able to buy into a system. And right now we're not seeing it.
Yeah. It's completely lackluster across the board, aside from, like you said, McEwen, which has been like the lone bright spot for this team over the past, maybe month or so. There's nothing. Moments. Well, Lawton does. I mean, that shorthanded goal was pretty. That was so damn pretty.
I would argue our PK has been the lone bright spot and outshining our power play.
But that's the bright spot for the Flyers, though.
That's sad. It's sad. Like the penalty kill was 10 for 11 this past week over those 4 games. Power play 0 for 9. 0 for 9.
And how many penalty kill goals do we have during that span?
What, 2 shorthanded goals?
Yep,
something like that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
We're getting more production from being a man down than we are man up. Like how sad is that?
Pretty bad.
Hoagie, what are your thoughts on all this, man?
I mean, the quote that stands out to me and everybody is, it's a challenging time, but everybody has to be better, and that starts with me. But it's not starting with AV. He's not doing better. He's employing the same systems, employing the same lines sometimes. I mean, the lines where, you switch a player to it doesn't work. You have to he's throwing shit at a wall, the man, hoping it sticks. It's not happening. I do want to touch on Casey's point where, the injuries are really hurting us. But, I mean, everybody's going through them. Pittsburgh had Crosby, Malkin, Carter, everybody out for an extended long time, and they're making it work. Why can't we make it work?
Well, we don't have a Crosby or a Malkin. That's why.
Yeah, but they were out for so long.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
They were out for so long, but then they're still above us in the standings. So where's the difference right there? It's the coaching. The coaching is employing systems that everybody's buying into. Mm-hmm. So I will
also say this though, and like again, I don't want to make excuses. Our schedule's been brutal. I think I saw some stat, and I think Martinez tweeted this out too, that we've had the worst strength of schedule or the hardest strength of schedule, whatever you say, in the NHL to date. There's something to be noted there, but it's still like, okay, so we can't compete with top teams in the league. Like, what's the difference at this point?
Right. Right. I mean, and the thing that worries me, I'm sorry, Derek, and then I'm going to shut up for, 2 minutes or so. But I think the thing is it's like we keep hearing, oh, the schedule, oh, the injuries. But in this division, like you do not have time to just let that happen, right? Like we are not in a division where it's like we can continue to prolong this winning streak and be like, oh, well, in January, if we get it all together and our schedule lightens up and we get a few people back, we'll be in the playoffs. Like Chuck Fletcher is at a point where he needs to make a decision right now. He needs to go, okay, am I going to allow this to just continue to flounder and pray that it turns itself around? Or am I going to continue my aggressive behavior like in the offseason and make a decision here that's going to spark this team?
Sure. No, I think Hoagie read that first quote here, and there's another one that I think would be fun to dissect here. Quote is, I've got to do a better job of making sure these guys perform to their level. At what point, though, and again, like, don't take this the wrong way, like I'm trying to stick up for AV, but at what point is this on the players? Because AV can do all he wants to do to try to get these guys, amped up and ready to go. But right now we're seeing it not working. But is that AV's responsibility, or is that the players just needing to come around and start performing up to, potential, their level, whatever you want to call it? Anybody
that just dives into the systems. I mean, the dump and chase or the dump and change, you're not letting players play their game. You're making them chase after a puck night in, night out, shift after shift. If you want these players to play their game, let them get into the zone and let them dangle some guys and let them set up in the offensive zone. That's how you're going to get their performance out of them. Like, you're not going to get anything while they're trying to chase a puck going after these defensemen that already have the puck and already turning the other way. Like, that's not going to work.
Right.
Sorry, go ahead, Joe.
And I just think it's like it depends on the player too. There were two players that I watched. It might have been just one play, but I think Sanheim carries the puck in on his own stick into the offensive zone. And I'm like, oh, whoa, that's what I like about Travis Sanheim. There's that offensive skill. Same thing with Travis Konechny. He goes in with the puck on his stick. It's like you see what makes them good players, right? So it's like
2 seconds later, Konechny loses it.
Well, yeah, but at the same time,
into the corner.
I'd rather them do that and leave the dump and chase to people like if JVR's the one leading the rush, where that he's not going to be dangling anybody. I just think that for certain players, their skill set isn't being utilized the right way.
Right. Sure. That makes sense. What's your take on that, Matt Casey?
Yeah, I think to answer your original question, Derek, of like, what was the original question? I totally lost it now.
Yeah, look at you, acting like you're trying to get it back on track. You have no idea what the track was.
What the hell was it?
The quote. So I've got to do a better job of making sure guys perform to their level. Like, at what point does that fall on the players as opposed to AV?
I think so. Yes, I think it's a two-way street. It absolutely falls on the players just as much as it falls on AV. I mean, these guys are all paid millions of dollars a year to show up and freaking play. And the one thing that keeps sticking to my mind is I feel like we saw this last year. We saw this, they can't show up for games. They can't quite get it together. That's because we had a youthful and inexperienced team. Okay, what's our excuse now? We have an incredibly experienced team. We have a guy, arguably everyone who we didn't want was shipped off in the offseason. What's the excuse now? And that's where it does. It's like, okay, you're right. It does kind of fall into the systems. This 2-1-2 that we're trying to run, like, I keep on hearing everybody and you can see it. We don't have the personnel and the speed and the size to actually execute that because it depends on people getting in and busting on the forecheck. So, I'm with you, man. I don't think that it's the right system. I think it falls on the players. I think it falls on the coach. I think the only one to date who has done their job to a T is Chuck Fletcher. And unfortunately, a lot of those acquisitions have gone bust just from an injury standpoint.
Sure. The injuries play a big part in this. I get that. You know, missing Ellis has been a key, you know, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Missing Ellis sucks, and missing Hayes sucks, and missing Wade Allison sucks. Like, it all sucks. But at what point are these players going to step up? The guys that are filling in for him. We've seen the Max Wilmans. We've seen the Pat Browns. Like, we knew that they were going to be just kind of spokes on the wheel. They weren't going to be anything, you know, crazy. But we're employing. We've said this how many times? We're employing a bunch of fourth liners. It's all fourth liners at this point, and none of them are sticking. Max Willman was an ECHL player last year. Like, he was an ECHL player, and now he's playing in the NHL magically. Like, great, good for him. Love the story, but what the hell, guys? Like, something's got to give here.
And the saddest thing is, these are the players who show the most spark. Like, yeah, is Willman going to do anything to change the game? No. But when he has the puck on his stick, he looks freaking hungry. Like, he's not going to do much, but at least he looks like he wants to. You know, it's just like everybody else. And we said this last year. Everybody else is just in neutral, and they're doing the same thing over and over and over again. And at this point, I don't even see frustration anymore.
It's just settled in.
Lack of emotion.
Complacent. Yeah. Right. It's a sense of complacency, it looks like, at this point.
The last time we saw emotion was against the Florida game, where they were creating scrums, hitting people like that. That's when they play their best type of hockey, is when they're making big hits, creating disturbance around the net, and just attacking. Like, I don't understand why they don't bring that style of play every game. Like, they only bring it like a game a week, and it's really frustrating to watch.
Got it.
The fight against Gearstead? Was it Gearstead, that guy from Jersey, when the guy who McEwen took on? You didn't even see any pep in their step after that. Like, that's the type of thing that gets a team going. And it didn't. It absolutely didn't. McEwen, you saw the guy's fist. You saw his fist sitting in the penalty box, swollen all to hell. Cracked his nose. Yeah. And that did nothing. It got nothing done. None of the other players wanted to respond. They fell flat, and they ended up losing the game 5-2. Like, it's borderline sickening at this point. Like, I can't watch these games.
The thing that boggles my mind is, in our heads, right, we got rid of the players that we felt brought that mentality to the team.
Did we feel wrong about it now, though? I mean,
no, I still think those players should have gone. But the puzzling thing to me is,
who else?
New group of players, all veterans who you would assume would be hungry, excited to play with each other. It's the same thing, which makes it just convinces me personally that this is not a player thing. This is a coaching situation. There's a problem in the locker room, and I can't speak to it. I've never been in the locker room, right? You know, I know Hoagie's in there every once in a while, try to smell some jock straps, but
trying to get to my boy Lots.
But to me, there's a reason why they're acting this way, and I don't know. To me, it falls on the coaching.
See, but we've watched this for how many years? When it was Laviolette, when it was Haxtall, Berube, the players just become uninterested in playing. So it's got to be coming down to the locker room and how they're being coached.
I think it is, but I think there's also a difference. Like, you look at the early Laviolette years when he came in, like, partway through the season, like, that team flipped it on a dime and ended up going on a pretty legit run for a couple of years. Now, eventually coaches all taper off. And I think that's what happens with Laviolette, and that's his MO at this point too, is he's good for the first like 2 years. Then it's like, all right, what do we have with this guy? But like, you know, Haxtall, you didn't see a whole lot besides Hextall coming down to the locker room every now and then and being like, why are you guys losing 8 games in a row? Which I would love to see a little bit of that in Chuck, quite frankly. It's like, you guys are embarrassing us. Like, this is something that needs to go. And whether it's AV talking up in the locker room or Claude talking up in the locker room or one of the new guys, like, somebody's got to at least show some leadership to salvage this season. Because if we go into the Christmas break and we're so far away from the playoff spot or even a wild card spot, like, man, I don't know. I don't know what else we can do to fix it at this point besides trade away the biggest players we have, which I think is the next step.
I would love to be a fly on the wall in between periods just to see what's going on in there. Like, is someone stepping up and talking to these guys? Is someone stepping up to be that vocal leader to get these guys amped up? Because it sure as hell doesn't seem like there's somebody like that in the locker room right now.
Right.
And you know what's funny is we were so proud of how many players we brought in that were formerly a captain or assistant captain. Like, what are these guys doing in the locker room right now?
I'd love to know.
Apparently sitting in the ice tub because they're all
Dude, we did have a comment from Michael, and he asks, how about the management? And I think this is a real important one. When he says management, I'm assuming he means Chuck Fletcher and company.
He's probably thinking top down all the way.
Like Scott?
Under Scott, all the way down, I'm sure.
Right. Yeah, so, like, to me, Chuck Fletcher did what he was supposed to do this offseason. Right? He did the best he could. And I think he did a pretty damn good job. Whether or not these turn out to be the pieces that turn this ship around, he still identified needs and addressed them. Right? Now you look at, okay, what needs to be done? And if you're looking at it from a Chuck Fletcher management standpoint, right? You can say, okay, I have to go make a trade. Is that legitimately going to be able to happen? Like, can this team make a trade with the cap situation that they have? The fact that nobody's really into trading at this point? Like, is that even an option?
You're starting to see a couple names pop up, and it's with a lot of teams that are like in the same situation that we are.
Right.
So you're seeing like, what's his name from Vancouver? Who's the center?
JT Miller.
JT
Miller.
I just read something about DeBrusque up in Boston, who's
requested a trade.
Happy.
He's on his
So,
way
out. I think everyone's like, okay, we're a quarter of the way into the season. I just don't think anyone wants to be like the first one through the glass on the trade one. Especially, I keep on hearing it's like, oh, it signifies that you're giving up in the season if you trade someone. I think that's BS. I think it signifies that you don't have the right mix and you want to keep salvaging the season.
Sure, and I agree with you, but it's like, but what does a trade look like? You're going to have to trade somebody that it's like change of scenery guy like JVR, like hope that they're interested in kind of reclamation project, if you even want to call it that, with him for a JT Miller. Like, you can't just trade draft picks for these guys right now. We don't have the money.
Right.
Sure. You find ways to make it work. It's not going to be easy by any means, but there's still ways, because you got to think, what's JT Miller making? Let's just say, for argument's sake, $5 million. We're not taking on the full 5. It's not retroactive, but you're taking on the however far we're into the season, the percentage, all that good stuff, the math stuff that I don't care to, delve into. But it's doable. It's just that much more difficult when we have $1,037.56 in cap space right now.
This also goes back though to like the management aspect of things and why people are like, oh, like we're a corporate company now. It's like, hold on, we have spent to the cap. Like, we have absolutely spent to the they're not like, hey, you got
what, like $4 million right now since we dropped Willman and the other one, Bunneman.
Yeah,
that's a paper move.
I don't know. I mean, I think there is a way to do it. If somebody wants to take JVR, like, please, like, we'll retain $1 million of its salary too. Like,
no one's going to.
Mm-hmm.
They see what we see on
give
the
up
ice.
for Gostisbehere. I mean, think of the picks that other teams are going to want if they're taking on JVR's salary with his style of play right now.
Right.
That's going to be. Whew.
I also think we look around and like last year it was like, okay, we were able to zero in on Nolan Patrick and zero in on like a handful of players. Right now, we don't know where to focus our disgust and our hate. And I think it's like that's why everyone's just kind of freaking out all over Twitter. Is like we just don't know where to point our frustration right now.
Right.
Yeah. Well, it goes to everywhere. I mean, everybody's mad at the coaches. Everybody's mad at the forwards, the defensemen. The goalies really are the only ones that aren't really getting that much hate, which is a complete flip from last year because the goalies were the reason why this team sucked.
Amazing.
Right.
We love to see so crazy. Oh, absolutely. But it's so crazy how things have changed in less than a year now because Carter Hart's playing phenomenal. Martin Jones has been better than we anticipated. Not fantastic by any means, but like solid.
Right.
These
better
past
than
couple
we
games,
thought he was going to be.
Yeah,
Right.
3 of his last 4 games weren't ideal, but like the way he started the season was fantastic. Like I'll give him that. But the man, I need to.
I'm trying to ignore the fact that we've given up 17 goals in the last week.
Right.
Yeah,
Like
can only
that's
put in-
tough.
And how many have we scored? Like six?
Six goals. We're averaging a point, a goal and a half a game to the 4.25 the other team is getting. Like, which
Let
is
me
just
check. Yeah,
unacceptable.
that's not good.
And they're only on the season. They're only averaging like 2.5 to like 3 goals a game. It's just it's not going to win you games. But we kind of knew that going into this. Like it's going to be tight games going through the entire season.
Right.
But I also look though at like what we were kind of pumped about at the beginning, which was like, okay, our breakouts were actually really crisp. Our neutral zone clog up was pretty good. It was really tough for people to get through. I looked back, not good.
Here's your heat map.
Whoa!
graph.
We are not an analytics podcast here.
Look, you can analytics, schmanalytics.
Continue,
that right there,
Casey. Continue, Casey.
self-explanatory. It's bad.
I look back at the way we played last night, and Jersey just backed us off. And so even the things that we were like, okay, this whole offseason was all about limiting the amount of goals that we're going against. And now that identity is absolutely into the wind. And so I think like you have to shake it up. You have to adjust the forward lines. You need to get everybody a reset. They had a full day off today because thank God the Islanders are, even worse off than we are.
Yeah.
And so you're going into New York next week or on Wednesday. And like, I'm not so sure we're not going to get blown out 8-0 again or 9-0. Like there is a real possibility that could happen.
Right. I mean, the Rangers are having a great start to the year.
And I'll be there to witness it all. I'm so excited.
Cannot wait to hear all about it. But to your point, and we wanted to get into this as well. You want to talk about a shakeup. Where does this team get shook up? Like, what's the first thing we look at as fans, really, and people that watch and analyze the game? Are we looking to make those trades? Are we looking to fire a coach? If we're firing a coach, which one? What's going to make the statement that needs to be made? John, what's your thought on this? Like, where do we begin?
So this might be one of the more drastic statements I've ever made because I typically don't like going here, but I did spend a lot of time thinking about this, and I think you have to fire AV. I think if they lose against the Rangers again, I just don't see firing a Therrien or a Yo doing something drastic to this team, shaking it up the way we want. I also just don't see a roster move of any significance happening right now. But Chuck Fletcher has to do something. So to me, you fire AV and you appoint Mike Yo. Mm-hmm. And maybe that doesn't solve your issue, but this team just
I hate it so much.
But honestly though, but what else do you do? Like if this ship keeps sinking, all right, do you think that can happen mid-season, though? Do you think that...
Why not? Like, Laviolette comes in. John Stevens came in mid-season, didn't he? I think.
I don't know. The way I see Chuck Fletcher, I just don't know, this whole, like, patience and let it work thing. I feel like it would take a lot out of him to just fire AV, that he's just not going to know what to do. I mean, I don't care who's appointed. I felt like appointing internally, at least while you try to search. I, for Christ's sake, don't want Therrien running the show. So,
God, no.
Yo would be the lesser of two evils. But I really think that if AV will not show any ability to alter what he's doing or changing the game plan, you got to let him go. Because I don't see it getting any better if we don't make changes to how we're playing.
Think about how excited a lot of us were when they brought in AV and then they brought in Yo and Therrien, 2 former head coaches with a plethora, Therrien at least with a plethora of experience, Yo with some experience and some success. Everybody was loving it. We're like, we have 3 guys that are experienced behind the bench that know how to run a team. Look where we are. Yep. Look where we are right now. We
Bunch of
want
dinosaurs.
AV's head on a stake. We want Tarian's head on a stake 3 weeks ago.
Mhm.
And Yo's just kind of, like John said, the lesser of
It's just
two
fun.
evils. You know, it's like Yo's. I'm indifferent to Yo, honestly. I
Right.
think, with what John said, it's drastic getting rid of AV. It absolutely is. Given the deal that he's on, the money they're paying him, financials aside, that might be the move you have to make.
Mhm.
The move you have to make, because that's the one that's going to send the proper message, if you will.
And people say talk it, and I get that, especially with the Flyers connection. But if we're gonna go and get somebody to really light a spark, and you know exactly who I'm gonna say, Derek,
Do it.
The guy that I wanted
John
from the
Tortorella.
get-go.
Don't
Yeah.
do it. No.
But what has
No.
Tocchet
We're
done?
doing it.
Coached a subpar Coyotes team? What is
That's
he?
about it.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm all for bringing him in, if there was something there. But if, like, we need to change now,
Mhm.
I'm throwing all my money at Tortorella, not Rick Tocchet.
See, and the fun thing is with Tortorella, he'd be such a blast to watch with the Philly media.
Oh my God, yes.
It'd just be a blast to watch. But
Sorry, go ahead, Ogie.
no, I'm just laughing at Tortorella being with the Philly media. But I do want to pose this: what if they fired AV and they just get rid of Yo and Tarian? Because that was his core. He brought them on, right?
Mhm.
And why don't we
did.
put in this new guy, Daryl Williams, that we signed on in July or June or whenever we did? I know he's he's like an AV guy. Why don't we just toss him in there? He replaced LaPerriere. We don't want LaPerriere coming up from the Lehigh Valley because they're
No.
just
Absolutely
as bad
not.
as we are right now. So new face, why not?
I just
mean-
think we're beyond. No, go, Derek. I'm going to shut up. Go ahead.
At that point, you've got 3 holes to fill. Like that,
Right.
Filling one is doable. You can find a guy on the open market that'll take that job, and who knows what'll happen, success-wise. But like filling a head coach role, penalty kill, a power play, running the offense, running the defense, filling those 2 roles, I feel like is just extra work that this franchise is not going to want to go through, especially going through an entire head coaching change. That's something that they would have to revisit in the offseason. Kind of, if they fire AV, honestly, I see this season being a waste because it's going to end up being a trial run. You're going to have to find out how that new head coach gels with those 2 guys, with Yo and with Tarian, and then kind of judge by there and figure out whether they're going to stick around or you're going to bring in 2 new guys.
I think you have countless examples of new coaches coming in from the outside midseason. Look at Craig Berube, like coming into St. Louis, who was the last place team. They end up winning the cup. That's the most extreme example I can.
But he was an
possibly-
assistant on the team. It's not like they hired him out of
All
nowhere.
right, fair point.
They also didn't win the cup. They just went to the cup finals.
No, they won the cup.
Oh, that's
They
right.
did win
Yeah,
the cup.
sorry, I'm thinking
Yes, they
Bruins
did.
won for
Good
some
fact
reason.
check. Good fact check.
I'm sorry.
Filling
Oh,
our
thanks, guys.
credibility, you son of a bitch.
I'm an asshole. I'm an asshole. I'm an asshole.
Hoagie's favorite song.
So I don't know. I feel like a coaching shakeup could do it, especially. I mean, if they lose Wednesday night and they lose in like decisive fashion, they have to do something.
Heads need to roll.
There's no way. And could there be a roster shakeup? Maybe. Is it unfair to AV because he hasn't gotten full seasons and people gotten injured? Like, yeah, probably. That's probably not a fair thing. But like, it's a results-oriented business, and like it's wins and losses. It's making the freaking playoffs. It's about ticket sales. It's about getting people excited about this team. And right now, this team is just in a malaise that like they cannot get out of.
Oh, it's about ticket sales more so now than it has been in years because you've got a giant corporation running the team, which it's noticeable.
I also think that's a lazy cop for why this team is doing poorly. I really do. Like, listen, when it comes to the season ticket stuff and all that, fine. But when it comes to the on ice product, blaming Comcast, I'm sorry. I don't buy it. This is a coaching and players and general manager. This isn't, Comcast putting the roster together.
And Comcast and what's his name? David Scott? Is that the guy?
Yeah.
Like he said, Chuck, this is your thing.
Right.
Like or Paul Holmgren, this is your thing. Like go figure this out. And so I mean, I forgot about Holmgren. I actually totally forgot he was around. So
is Clark. Clark's still around. He's still in the organization.
yeah.
I don't know. Like, I feel like that's just, again, maybe it is the lazy way to look at it, but at the same rate, think about it. You're working for a giant corporation. You think you matter? You're just another number.
But how many of these teams are run by corporations now, though? I feel like that's becoming the regular. Right.
But this is
I feel like
this is like this is just one of the biggest corporations in the
John.
in the
It's
world.
Comcast.
It's Comcast spectacle.
It's Comcast.
This is not Bally's Sports, John. This is Comcast.
But at the same time, guess what? This team's not being sold. So we have to talk about things that are actually going to be able to fix this, and I think that what the fan base wants to see is a change that doesn't represent, okay, we're throwing in the towel. Because can this season still be saved? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah, it can. But you need to do something. You just have to go, okay, we have faith in turning this organization around this season. But we felt like the way to do that was to make a drastic change so we are fill in the blank,
So realistically, what do we need? Because I'm assuming that Nate Thompson's thing is not good. Like, he's not a guy who sits out a lot of games. And not that he was like the linchpin to our success or not, but that leaves a hole at 4C, which Bunneman I don't think is qualified to fill. So we need Lawton in at 4C. So now we have Broussard coming in at 2C.
Is Broussard
who I don't know what he's going to do. I think we need another center. Yep. Like that's my like a second or third line center. I think is something that we like desperately need. So like hypothetically, JT Miller. What does he like? What would a trade like that look like?
Konechny
or JVR?
I think you'd have to give up Konechny. I think
I don't
that's
think
the
Vancouver
one guy.
wants JVR, buddy.
No one wants JVR, but you got to get him off the freaking cap. That if you want to do anything with this team, you have to get him that contract gone. That's the only thing.
Unless you're throwing them a high quality prospect or a high pick,
toss in Morgan
maybe
Frost.
Multiple of them.
So
they're going to take Frost though.
JT Miller's cap hit is 5.25.
Send him Konechny, you save $250,000.
4.5, is that right?
Yep.
I don't know. I'm looking at JT Miller.
He's 5.5.
I mean, JT Miller's also on the books till 2023. So I guess that's not too long. But
it's shorter than Konechny's term.
Right. But then you're looking at the geriatric tour as centers when Hayes comes back.
But like I at this point, I have zero faith that even if Hayes returns, he's going to be anywhere close to what we saw in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I think we're prolonging the inevitable when it comes to him. I think he's on the shelf for the rest of the year.
I do too.
LTIR him.
Yeah, you might as
another
well.
way to get some more cap.
Right.
Just over $7
maybe
million
that is the move.
Mm-hmm. And then pull Tampa Bay and bring him back for the playoffs.
They're so hesitant to make any sort of decision with injuries, though. If you've noticed, like, I just don't. I don't see it happening until it's like a doctor's like, no, like he's not playing.
Right.
Sure.
6 days to get test results back is never a good sign. That's
right.
And also traveling with the team on an away trip, like that made no sense.
No, absolutely not.
I think that's more like the mental thing. Like he just wants to be like around the guys. Like I think that's like his
bored,
his thing. Yeah. He doesn't want to turn into
Carter. At that point, retire, put on a suit, and get behind the bench.
We may have an opening for you.
All right,
but no, I agree with you, Casey, that it's a center. If we're gonna go and trade for someone, it's a center. You like, yeah, would I love a Tarasenko to come in and score a few goals? Sure, but like we addressed it before Kevin Hayes got injured. That the worry was center depth.
Yep.
And what's DeBrusk? Is DeBrusk a wing or a center?
He's a winger. He's a top 6 winger.
He just officially requested a trade too.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now.
In here, like what the. Wasn't that said like 30 minutes ago? Jesus Christ, John.
I didn't think trade request was a part of what we said.
It
It
was.
absolutely was. And if you weren't
Did
busy
you say
focusing
it?
on the fact that I was multitasking and putting in that ticker that's
Did you
scrolling
say
along the
it? Because
bottom
I just
there, I
don't
did.
listen when you
I
talk.
I did
said-
say it.
I said.
Oh,
We
sorry,
all
Casey.
said, except for you, John.
I actually listen to when
Yeah.
Casey talks, but not Derek.
In summation, John,
Or
you
Hogs.
suck. Anyways, if we're going to keep with the center talk, I think we do need to touch on another somewhat big topic that could turn into something bigger, at least. Nate Thompson decided to take to Twitter earlier this week, which was a little bit of fun that we got to see. Responded to a tweet from Alex Appleyard of The Athletic. His tweet said, "Hey, Alex, if you think I'm that bad, just tag my Twitter name. That way you really mean it. You'll learn, young grasshopper. I just realized you were probably not even walking when I turned pro. Forgive me. I don't know anything. You're the man." Frustration's boiling over a little bit, it seems, for Nate Thompson. We find out that he also separated his shoulder in that meeting against, what was it? I couldn't tell you. Carolina.
Carolina lost.
Yeah. So
Which loss was
you
it?
could-
Oh, it was the Carolina loss. Okay.
Yeah, which loss? Tell us you're bad without telling us you're bad. No, that's what it is. Frustration's boiling over from to me, at least, with that type of tweet. Not a great sign that a player's taken to Twitter to call people out, but like I can excuse it a little bit. What are your thoughts on this, John?
I wish it was like Claude Giroux and not Nate Thompson.
Right.
Like, I like, whatever. It's a little immature. And do I think that players should just ignore all that stuff? I do. But like, if somebody's going to be like noticeably pissed off and frustrated, I wish it was somebody who meant a little bit more. You know what I mean? Like, clearly this is a guy, right, who is sick and tired of all the heat map geeks giving him a hard time game in and game out. He saw it and he snapped back on it, at it. He had deleted it too, I think.
He did.
He did.
But
grab that screenshot.
It's frustration boiling
Yeah,
over, and I'm glad to see it, because if they're not frustrated right now, then I don't know what the hell is going on. But whatever.
Sure. What do you think, Matt Casey?
Yeah, I mean, definitely frustration, and it's also like, I don't know, Nate. You're a veteran. You're a professional. Like, just don't even go on Twitter. Like, come on, we're doing that. We're doing this stuff because we like hobbies. Like, we like the Flyers as a hobby, and we're passionate about it. Like, you're a pro. You're getting paid. Probably not in the millions, but like, you're getting paid a hell of a lot more than we are. And like, just let it go. And also, like, definitely frustrations, because he threw arguably one of the worst breakout passes I've ever seen in my life that led to a goal. And like, you deserve to be called out on that one, but he also has done plenty of good, and so I feel for him. But I don't know. The Twitter BS. I don't care. Win games. Shut up. Win games.
Yeah.
All right, Hoagie.
I mean, hey, at least it's not a Jake Voracek and he's just blocking everybody left and right. But I kind of like it
now.
Yeah, Hoagie, did you get blocked by Lots?
I have not. And I will cry if it happens.
I'm gonna make sure it happens. I'm gonna tweet at him every day. Be like, "Did you hear Hoagie slandering you on the latest show?"
Yeah, somebody's kind of fighting you for super fan supremacy right now.
Yo, I'll win. I will win.
I mean, I hope you don't tweet some of the things that they say, but like,
I definitely won't.
but it's interesting. We got a little battle going on.
Yeah, you like that, John?
I do.
But in regards to Thompson tweeting this, I mean, Appleyard, I mean, he's saying, if Ross Farabee, TK were making those mistakes, they get benched. Everybody's making those mistakes. It's not just Thompson; it's everybody. So I think Thompson's kind of saying it for everybody, saying watch the game. Everybody's doing it. We're all frustrated. Let us play the game and let us figure it out. So good for Thompson. I like seeing that a little bit, but I mean, it was kind of bad on his part too, because he got pretty much slandered again.
Here's the difference, though. Like, you look at a guy like Farabee, you look at a guy like Konechny, like, they're expected to do things not like that. They're expected to be better. They're in a top 6 role, typically, I should say. Whereas Thompson, like, these things are going to happen. It's going to happen more frequently, I should say. We don't expect it, but when it happens, we're like, that's why he's on the 4th line. Nothing against the guy personally. I think that he's a solid fourth line guy. Like, I'm cool with him where he's at in the lineup, fine with it. I think frustration boiling over, you separate your shoulder, you see this tweet, and you're just pissed off because you lost to the Canes 6-3. Like, yeah, okay, spout off. Have your day, have fun with it. But at the end of the day, it's like, it is kind of nice to see that there is some frustration. Like, they should be frustrated. They should absolutely be frustrated with the way they've been playing. It's been terrible. So
I mean, that's also the knock. That's the knock on the NHL just for years in general has been like, oh, we don't see the personalities of the guys.
Right.
And anytime you do see the personalities, and I think back to the Robin Lehner tweets, which we talked about before. I think that's the extreme. Like,
did you just call him Robin?
Yeah, isn't that his name? Isn't it Robin?
Robin Leonard?
Robin?
It's like Robitussin. Like Robitussin.
Robin
Leonard. So much room up here for important stuff, and his name is not important.
Is it Robe for short? Robert.
Robin? Like Christopher Robin?
Christopher Robin.
Christopher Robin. And so I think you're right, Derek, that like showing the personality is good. It just sucks when it's like when from a fan base we're like, oh god, this isn't a good look for us.
Well, it was channeled less than ideally. Like, there was better ways to channel that frustration.
Right. A sign for why, us really sucking is we're spending way too much time criticizing the fourth line.
Yeah.
Like, the amount of hate that I hear about the fourth line, like they're supposed to be the ones scoring the goals.
It's like a roulette wheel for our frustration. Like, who's it going to be tonight? Let's go.
Some things never change. You're upset
but even our fourth line has been our best line half the time. It's
because of one player.
Exactly.
Zach McCune.
And they moved him up to the third line, and it was tragic.
If we had 3 Zach McCunes, I'd be completely satisfied with that fourth
with
line.
a little bit more, dash of skill.
But
I agree. On that note, though, like, I know Lawton actually had a pretty good game last night. Was it last night? But that
all
third
of his
line,
games are great.
That third line of JVR, Lawton, and Oscar is killing me. Yeah. Like, they do nothing.
They gotta just make glue out of JVR now, man. Like, that guy is that guy's done.
Take him behind the bar.
I'm sorry, but his days are done. Just going of mice and men.
Jesus Christ.
Just some bunnies. They just take they're like, well, Claude, you're the captain. You got to do this. Like, all right, James, come on. Let's go play with the rabbits, James. So you take me to see the rabbits, Claude? Yeah, go ahead. Look out there. Sorry.
The best part is this is a literary reference and half of our audience, so 3 people will not understand it.
Hoagie and Derek have no clue.
All I know is I don't want any part of this right now.
That was just said for comedic relief. I don't actually think that Claude Giroux should go blow JVR's brains out. I'm just saying that for comedic relief.
It would be cool to have. Hey, look at that!
This is
Hoagie's entire family is watching this show right now.
Kristen Hoagland, I understand the reference. All right, good. We can.
On the flip side,
we can get Hoagie the book on tape, and
So, let me just sidetrack here real quick. Michael Brownholtz, is that your father-in-law?
Yes.
Okay. I'm very glad that he's tuning in. I think that you and him are going to have a conversation, and you're going to have to explain to him. Sometimes this show goes off the rails.
Yeah, I will.
It's like we're narrating the Hoagie family reunion.
Are we getting paid for this? Oh no. Okay. Well, literally the whole family and some of your hockey players are listening right now. Lord help you, pal.
Yeah.
Oh boy, they're gonna think very, very differently of you. Anyways, now we're coming up on about 50 minutes here. Do we want to touch on this last subject here that Hoagie has written down for us in our? Let's do it.
Oh,
all right, okay. Sam Carchidi, no stranger to a little bit of drama, I guess you want to call it. Put out an article about Claude Giroux. I'm I'm sure you guys know what it is and what it's about.
You clearly don't.
I don't. I couldn't tell you right now. I'm
We'll
still
put
trying
that
to
on
gather
tape for
myself
you
from
and
you
have
telling
it.
everybody that Giroux should take JVR out back and back. But no, it's an article about Giroux, whether we should be trading him and giving up on him, essentially, and trading him to a cup contender. This is probably one of the hardest things for me to come to grips with because he is my favorite player and maybe one of my all-time favorite players when it comes to hockey in general. But I think it's a question worth asking. Hoagie, I'm going to start with you. We're going to go back in reverse order again. I've been going to John first too often. I'm getting sick and tired of hearing his voice. What is your take on this?
We started the episode off sober or somber, and it's just
We did start sober.
Fair
yeah,
point.
right. But it's just going to be somber if we ever do trade G, because he is a fan favorite. He's the longest tenured athlete in Philadelphia, longest tenured captain in Flyers history. I think if he goes, then we're definitely starting over, and it's time for the rebuild. So I hate saying that, but apparently Comcast does too. They're afraid to say that word. And if we see Giroux go, that's what we're looking at. But I hope we do right by him and give him a chance to win a cup in his career.
That's because rebuild means less money. That's
Exactly.
essentially what it is. You admit it's a rebuild, you're going to lose ticket sales. Matt Casey, what are your thoughts on this?
I don't love it just from a fan standpoint. Giroux, I think, has not only been the staple here, but he's also been arguably our best offensive player this season. And still there's plenty left in the tank there. I'm not opposed to making the trade, but you don't do it right now. You do it after the Olympic break when the value is at its absolute peak. And you know what? That doesn't mean that he might not re-sign back here again next year. If there is a fair shot that the Flyers aren't going to make the playoffs, which, to be honest, that's the direction we're going. Then Giroux deserves a fair shake. If he really wants to come back to Philly, I'm sure there's going to be a spot for him. And then we still have some assets there as well. So if we're going to do it, you do it in 3 months, not right now.
Good move. What about you, John?
I mean, I agree with Casey. I mean, if you do it now, you are saying that this season's done with already.
Mm-hmm.
And it's too early to do that. I mean, you talk about money and ticket sales, you are completely eliminating all hope in this season if you trade Giroux right now. That being said, I do think that there's a few ways you can look at this, right? If we are out of the playoffs and you want to put him on a contender, I say go for it. I also really do wonder if contract talks have stalled because he isn't really sure if he wants to stay here. And I don't want to make that story bigger than it is, but at this point, maybe he's kind of fed up with being around here too, where if you're going to lose him, you trade him. But it's too early.
Yeah, it could definitely help the franchise, I think, if they were to move him at the deadline. I know they had mentioned that deal. I forget what deal it was, where Foligno and a first or something like that, where you get a player back in return that can play right away and slot in, in your bottom six, and you get a first round pick. I think Giroux could fetch much more than that. I think Giroux is a better player.
Here's my worry.
Thanks for cutting me off. Go ahead.
I thought you were done. Do you want to go ahead and finish?
No, it's okay. You sound like my wife right now.
That's okay. Here's my worry, though. I think that trading Giroux shows signs of a rebuild that I don't think we can actually do. Because look at all of these players we have on the books that are not free agents after this season. You know what I mean? You trade Claude Giroux, okay, great. You get a first round pick, maybe you get a bottom six guy, but you're still stuck with a lot of this roster. To me, if you're Chuck Fletcher, and if this involves trading Claude Giroux, maybe you can get some actual NHL talent for it and use that money in the offseason. But Chuck Fletcher has got to go all in for the rest of his tenure. And I don't give a crap at this point if he screws this franchise for the next 5 years, because if he's willing to go all in and get some talent to make us contenders, like I mean, now I'm just rambling, but I think we're so messed up anyway that this isn't about rebuilding. Chuck Fletcher's just got to keep making moves to see if he can get this team to win. We can't rebuild.
But at what point do you stop making those moves because you've depleted all your resources? Like, are you going to end up with an empty prospect pool, with an empty, draft cupboard, and then you still suck, but you don't have the capital with the prospects and with the draft to be able to properly rebuild? Then you just push it off maybe 3-4 more years down the road, and it's 3-4 more years of misery.
I understand that. But again, we have so many people on the books for longer where you're not rebuilding and like being bad. We're going to just be like,
but we've done that.
But that's where we're going to be, though. If we're still going to have Atkinson, you're still going to have Ellis, you're going to have all of these people on contract where it's we're going to be 3-4 years of this middle of the road, not quite right, where it's if we had more contracts that were going to come off the books this season and it wasn't working, I'd say go for it. I just don't think we are in a position to do it.
No, I don't think so either. Because like you said, we've been the middle of the road for years now. Right. All of our draft picks have fallen between 10 and 20 for the most part. We haven't gotten quality like out of the draft, aside from guys like Farabee, Provorov, like Konechny to an extent too, but like it was brought up too on Twitter, like last how many years Giroux's on the team. We've only drafted X amount of players that are truly making an impact at the NHL level. Like that to me has got to change first and foremost. There's plenty of value in there's plenty of value though in the middle of the first. There's plenty of value in the second and the third rounds too.
Sure, but the Flyers aren't the only team missing, though. Like, I think for us, it's so focused on.
It seems like we're missing everything.
Yeah, but so many of those players.
Rubtsov, Pascal Laberge,
but that's a
Matt Casey's personal favorite, Nolan Patrick.
Nolan Patrick.
What's he doing these days?
Nothing.
Is he doing anything in Vegas?
I don't know. I keep getting Shane Gostisbehere updates from people, though. They're really starting to annoy me.
Yeah. Oh, he could have been doing this in Philadelphia. No, he couldn't.
I think the frustrating thing for me is that like we were supposed to be going through a quote unquote rebuild under Hextall rather, and like stockpiling these draft picks and like what did we get? I mean, we got Provorov, we got Konechny, we got
Morgan Frost, man. We got
Morgan Frost. Like I want to give that kid the benefit of the doubt because I think he came into like a pretty dicey situation,
and he's looked all right.
He hasn't been noticeable, good or bad, which I guess is like what you can ask for. But like, I don't know. I'm just like I'm frustrated because it was like okay, these couple of years were supposed to be what the last 5 years were for, and now it's not.
Right.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, to answer the original question, I do think Giroux gets traded. I hate to say it. That's just the person, like the businessman, if you will, approach. Unless
we're in a playoff spot.
Unless we're in a playoff spot, sure. Right. But like as a fan, I don't want to see that happen. I absolutely don't want to see Claude Giroux in any other uniform but Flyers orange and black. It's going to kill me. I'm going to hate it. But if it means he gets a cup, I'd be okay with it. The man deserves it after years and years of mediocrity here in Philadelphia where they failed to build around him. Give the man what he's due. Like he deserves
whatever. We're due a frigging cup too. Like I want
damn right. Here.
Not with the team we've got right now.
I'm not here. I'm not in the Claude Giroux business. I'm in the freaking Flyers business. Come on.
Claude Giroux is the Flyers.
Straight to that.
All right. Well, if that wraps up our main discussion here, we're going to flip it to Hoagie here real quick. Hoagie, do you have a dad joke for us this week?
Everyone's watching, Hoagie.
Yes, you're going to disappoint your entire set of in-laws here.
I never do.
Again.
What do you call a snake without any clothing? Snaked.
I see what you did there
Chuckle.
because snake and naked sound very similar. So you just put the D at the end to make snaked sound like naked.
I hate
Dear
it,
God,
John.
make me a bird so I can fly far, far, far away from here.
Oh God.
Just take me out to see the rabbits.
All right. Well, after the after the dad joke here, I just want to take a second to first tell John to shut up. Second, want to give a shout out to our two affiliates here. We've got 5 Minute Major, Dave and Mastro over there. Fantastic guys, awesome podcast. Give that a listen. Shout out to our guys over at Flyers High and Wide as well. Jim, Jack, Kyle, Johnny. Jesus, there's a lot of them. I couldn't. name
Jesus
all.
is on there.
Jesus, yes, we actually
Wow.
Jesus.
late edition, but he is there, and yeah, so we're happy to be working with him amongst all the others. John, or I'm sorry, Hoagie, we'll go back to you here real quick. Let everybody know where they're going to be able to find you.
Find me at Pod Street Hose on the Twitter app, and like and retweet all my Lawton pictures and love.
All right,
Thanks,
Casey.
Hoagie.
Pod Street Casey, spelled out. C-A-S-C-Y. I swear to God, I'm looking out the movie clip of Mice and Men. Right now.
Oh my god!
Oh God. Oh, John, hurry before Casey finds it.
He found it.
Jeez. Oh no. Anyway, you can find us on all your various podcast listening receptacles. Eventually, just a quick note: we did switch from Anchor over to Spreaker, so we're having a few hiccups getting back onto Apple Podcasts. But you can find us on Spotify. We're on a new link there. I know I'm giving you a lot of things that you have to do.
It's
just
in the computer.
right, but we're there. You can find us, and we'll be back on Apple Podcasts eventually. But you can find us everywhere, even on YouTube now. So that's kind of fun.
Absolutely. And you can find me on Twitter at Pod Street Bob. You can find John on Twitter at Pod Street Go, the Pod Street Bullies, all four of us dipshits on Twitter at Pod ST Bullies. And well, I'll leave you as I've always left you with Let's Go Flyers.
Bye now.
Bye now.
Alfalfa George.